get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. Minor patch. So I've already sort of, in the future, as you guys know, I do work for Nimble Neurons, so I do get kind of spoiled on these patch notes. I did have to sort of proofread them to make sure that they were okay, so I'm going to just sort of go through this one. I know this one's relatively short, so we're not going to dwell on it for too long. Let's get right into it. First things first, they've added something kind of nice. This little quick look over here, it's really, really nice. This kind of does my job for me. Obviously, it doesn't have the details as to how much it is buffed, nerfed, or adjusted, but this thing's wonderful. If you just want a quick summary of what the changes are, it looks like Shugai, Cicella, Hart, Alex, Jackie, Hyun, Hejin, as well as Yuki are getting a slight buff. Golden Ray, a few other weapons. I'm not gonna go all the way into it, but you guys, you see what's going on. Nerfs, slight nerfs coming to Rozzy, Dylin, Zahir, Kathy, and Tiara, and some slight adjustments to Isol, Aya, and a few items. Character changes. It's the first minor patch of the preseason, so we're holding off on any major changes for now. We'll save those for the big patch. If you guys didn't know, these minor patch notes are going to be much shorter going forward. They're going to be way less significant going forward. There was a big dev letter that was released over on, I think it was released on Steam, I think, maybe. The point is, they talked about, so it was sort of like a balance-based dev letter, and in that balance-based dev letter, they mentioned that patches were happening too often with big changes. Like, even the minor patches were completely stacked from top to bottom with crazy changes to the balance of the game, which was kind of becoming problematic for the game in terms of its balance, in terms of content creation, in terms of everything, because it didn't give players enough time to adjust to the meta. It didn't give players enough time to like create guides, create content for the game without it becoming instantly invalidated by changing that stuff within less than a week. And I felt that a lot as a content creator. Like, I would make a build and then the next 3 days it would become invalid because they would nerf it, or I would, you know, put out a video talking about the way the game works in some certain way, and then like, yeah, instantly it changes like within a week, and it's just like, oh my god, it's just like a non-stop treadmill of changes. So that is why they're mentioning this right here. It's going to be a smaller patch in general, just because yeah, again, these minor patches, they're not going to be as significant, mainly just like a couple of adjustments here and there, nothing too significant. So let's start off real quick with Rozzy. Rozzy is in a decent place right now, but could use a little baby adjustment to her mobility. They're essentially just lowering the movement speed of her W back down. At one point, this did get buffed from 100% up to 110%. They're deciding to revert that, so it's going back down to 100. That's why you don't post the Zahir build. I don't post Zahir content because I personally don't feel super confident putting out Zahir content. There's not enough Zahirs in NA for me to get a very firm grasp of what the Zahir meta is, and I don't want to misinform people, so that's the main reason. Also, Rozzy, her base attack power is going down from 28 down to 26. Lee Dylan. Let's talk about this real quick. Rozzy, I actually really like this change. I hated the fact that this went up to 110%. I didn't think she needed it. I thought her mobility was more than good enough, so I think this is a great change. Lee Dylan. Glove Dylan has been good, but Nunchuck hasn't been as good. Lowering her base attack power, but adjusting Nunchuck power, see the weapons below, will help her balance out. So just lowering her attack power. But let's go skip ahead to Nunchucks to see what the change is. Nunchuck is getting a little bit more attack speed per weapon mastery, and Cerberus, the new Nunchuck, is getting 4 attack power. Not a huge significant change, probably won't change too much. I'm okay with this. I wish they would address Nunchuck skill sucking compared to glove skill, because I think glove skill significantly better. Also, the fact that Mithril Glove exists for glove is a big reason why it's so good, because it gives you that transition weapon opportunity, and that's not really present in Nunchucks. I'm sure they're going to address that at some point, but it won't be in a minor patch. We know that much. Shugai. Following previous adjustments to Shugai and Burnt to a Crisp, our big boy hasn't been doing all that great work, granting him a bit of survivability to help him scale a bit easier. 2 more base defense and a little bit of SP regen on the base, so his looting isn't quite as miserable. I think these changes are fine. I haven't been seeing a ton of Shugai lately, but I still think Shugai is really good. just because he hasn't been doing that great doesn't necessarily mean he's not a great character. I think he's just a little bit slept on in general. People are just sort of sick of playing him, sick of seeing him. Shugai players get bullied. This is kind of a notorious thing. The Shugai players get bullied out of playing their characters. So yeah, I mean, that could be a reason why too. Sissela. Small little buff actually to Sissela. Her R weapon mastery gain is adjusted down to 20% by default. On release, it was 100%, which was completely broken. You'd get like a level and a half off of pressing R. Really broken. So they nerfed it very early on in her release, going down to 20%. So you gain very little mastery off of pressing R. But now it's being bumped up to 30%. Not a big buff. You probably won't even notice it. It probably won't affect the game almost at all. Aya. Across all tiers and weapons, Aya is weaker than expected. We're nerfing Aya's early game, keeping a close eye on Pistol Aya, and moving some of her strength to the late game. Hold on. Let me delete that real quick. Dude, I haven't seen spam bots in a minute, man. That's crazy. So yeah, they're basically going to be changing her base attack power -3, 28 down to 25. Her attack power per level is going up by a pretty decent amount, going from 2.6 up to 3. Just a heads up, this means that at level 10, she will have made back all of the attack power that she lost here, and at level 20, she'll have 3 additional attack power. Defense per level going up by 0.2, and SP per level is going up by 3. Not a huge change. Again, none of these changes are going to be that massive, so that's sort of going to be the theme of this patch. ISIL. The gorilla could use a little bit of late game survivability, but needs a slight damage adjustment to compensate for it. So attack power per level going down by 0.3, similar to the Aya change, but in reverse. You're only going to notice this really at later levels. Like at level 10, you're going to be seeing 3 less attack power total. At level 20, you're gonna be seeing 6 less attack power total, which is actually pretty significant. That's actually quite a lot of attack power, but he's getting 0.3 defense per level to compensate. Not a huge change. Not the most important change. Alex. Okay, so this is the changes that we're probably the most interested in. Alex released and quite frankly was a little underwhelming. So here are the Alex changes. Alex has a high skill ceiling and takes some practice to get used to. However, even considering this, he's still coming in under the norm. We're giving him a little bit of a bump this week to see if he needs further adjusting in the next major update. Base movement speed being increased by 0.05. Attack power per level is going from 1.9 up to 2.4. That's a big change. I don't want to just say this for every time we talk about attack power per level changes, but again, level 10, it's an additional, I want to say additional 5 attack power, and at level 20, it's an additional 10. Should be, unless my math is completely messed up, which it shouldn't be. SP per level going from 17 up to 22 is very nice because his SP is kind of lacking and his costs were pretty expensive. Infiltration is passive. He gets additional movement speed when you level up his passive. Or sorry, when you level up his passive, the amount of movement speed you get increases, but they're going to be increasing how long that applies for from 2 seconds up to 2.5 seconds. Incursion, the melee Q, the cooldown is going down from going down by 0.5 at all ranks, which is pretty significant. Honestly, that is a rather significant buff at the max rank, going down to 4.5 seconds at max rank melee Q. Pretty big stuff. Also the damage, the ratio is being increased by 10%. Not bad. Honestly, his melee Q is one of his better skills, and getting a buff to that means it's going to be, well, even better than it was before. So that's a pretty significant change. Recognition signal, his W. At early ranks, you're going to be getting a longer duration on the buff, going from 1.6 seconds up to 2.0 at rank 1. Keep in mind, you're going to be keeping this at rank 1 for most of the game, honestly, because it doesn't really benefit you that much leveling it up. But again, at rank 5, it's exactly the same, 2.4 seconds at all ranks. Emp Barrage, this is ultimate. The cooldown is going to be reduced at early ranks from 160 down to 140, but at max rank, it's the same at 120. And obviously that scales to rank 2 as well. So basically just a little bit of an early game buff. Overall, pretty minor scattered buffs for Alex. Not the biggest deal in the world. I don't think this is going to make him suddenly a huge force to be reckoned with. That's my opinion right now. Not gonna be a huge force to be reckoned with right out the gate, but maybe this is enough to make him viable. We'll see. Roulette passions. I don't think it's roulette. I think a lot of these changes are actually pretty valid, and I don't think there's a single one in here that I would point to and be like, I don't get it, or why it's happening. At least, not yet, at least. Yuki is picked a ton, he is the most picked character, but he's still coming out a bit under the radar. We're keeping an eye on him to make sure he doesn't become too oppressive with a high pick rate. This is a slight buff that should help him out a bit. A little bit more base attack speed, going from 0.06 up to 0.08, and his W is going to be going up to, this is a nerf that happened a while ago. It went from 1 second down to 0.5 when damaging others. It was being changed back up to 1 second. Zahir was a touch above where he should be. Even when looking at his lower pick rate, the tipping point of most of his strength seems to be in his late game, so we're adjusting it a bit as so. Similar to the ISO change, he's going to be getting less attack power per level, going down by 0.3. Not a huge change, and honestly, I'm kind of okay with it. I think Zahir was really good. I've always said for a while that I think Zahir was in really good shape, so I'm okay with this Zahir change personally. Jackie changes. Outside of dual blades, Lumia's serial killer was lacking a little bit. In the next patch, we'll be looking to make some improvements to her R. It should help her out a little bit, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, minus 1 second to all cooldowns of her Q. Not a huge fan of this change. Been saying it for a long time. I don't think Jackie's issues are necessarily being addressed. They're buffing her without really addressing her problematic issues. Really? Like, sure, they kind of changed her ratting a little bit, but they didn't really adjust it enough to the point where it's still an issue. Her ratting is still a problem, and I really want them to address that before they really go crazy, or at the same time that they're going to go crazy with all these offensive buffs. I think Jackie's power right now is already really, really strong, and I don't think her tanky builds need to be improved at all, and all of their buffs to Jackie's strength have just been accidentally buffing her tanky rat builds. That's been what they've been buffing, not necessarily what they want to see out of Jackie. Anyways, Kathy's gonna see some changes. She was really just like too strong in general. Her base defense is going down by 3, her attack power per level is going down by 0.3, and her passive movement speed at all ranks going down by 3%. Pretty good change. I thought Kathy was pretty busted, so I'm okay with these changes. Tiara, across all tiers, Tiara is pretty effective. It's a pretty blasé way of saying that, honestly. Base defense 27 down to 25, but also they're adjusting her R. We were planning to keep an eye on Tiara for another week before applying the following nerf, but we actually previously committed it a bit early. Although unintended, we plan to keep this change. We plan to leave the change for this patch, but we'll continue to watch over her. So it's like an accidental nerf that got pushed in. But honestly, I'm okay with it. Look at this nerf. It's going to be changing the ratio on her R reactivation by 20%, going from 120 down to 100%. I am a big fan of this change. I think Kiara's R reactivation was very problematic in how much damage it dealt. I thought it scaled way too hard on attack power, and really the best way to play her in the late game is to have so much attack power, is to have auto arms or Elysian Halo, or you know, any of these really high attack damage pieces. You've been seeing some Rocker's Jacket coming out on her. Also, crit variants have been very powerful on her lately. The point I'm trying to make is that they were abusing the fact that this thing had an insane attack power ratio, an absolutely busted attack power ratio. Remember, it's true damage as well. So going down from 120 down to 100%, I like this change a lot, personally. They're changing Heart's W again, trying to buff it, trying to make people use it. The delay after using it is being decreased from 0.5 seconds down to 0.33. Not a huge change, but it's a nice change for Heart. But at the same time, I don't think Heart really needs a lot of buffs. So I don't know. Maybe, this one doesn't hurt me that much. You can't change her rat. If you do that, you need to rework her completely new skills. I don't agree. They're already sort of pushing towards making it so she only really gains the movement speed when chasing people. The mechanic is in the game, and it's shown up on Bernice too, and it's showing up on Jackie. Jackie has already been shifted that way. I don't see why they don't commit to that fully. Why, like, I don't see a genuine reason for Bernice to only gain movement speed when chasing people, but Jackie can still gain movement speed when running away. Like, even thematically, it fits Jackie way more to be chasing people than Bernice. Like, they could actually just flip the roles, have Bernice gain movement speed even when running away a little bit, and Jackie doesn't get any movement speed running away, and I think it'd be perfectly fine. I really do. They'd have to, like, maybe buff Jackie a little bit to compensate, but they wouldn't have to do too much. Because she already has one of the best escape tools in the game, which is her E. Thematically, it just doesn't fit for her to be the best character at running away when she should like characterization wise, she should be running people down recklessly, and that is the complete polar opposite of her current playstyle. So that bothers me, and it's just not healthy for the game. Her ability to run away, completely unhealthy for the game. Aya's going up by 0.4. No, I think it's by point. Oh, it is by 0.4. Yeah. Yes, correct. I was thinking someone else's changed. Someone else went from like 0.1 or 1.96 to like, I don't know, doesn't matter. Point is, we're gonna talk about Hyunwoo next. Hyunwoo, W. Bluff, lower cooldown in lower levels, return to about the same power level as previous patches. Didn't they make this change like last patch? Oh, it's just for like early ranks. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. 36 down to 32 at early ranks. That's fine. I hate when people have such easy escape tools, so that's an ISIL main. ISIL's escape is worse than Jackie's. It's still insanely good, but it is actually worse than Jackie's. ISIL, you can at least try and counter it with a camera. Jackie's, it doesn't matter what you got. You really cannot do anything about her escape. It's really too good. I wouldn't be surprised if they did nerf ISIL's escape at some point. Did Rozzy get nerfed? Yeah, Rozzy got a slight little nerf. Her 110% went down to 100% on her movement speed, and a little bit of a base attack power change. Anyway, I don't want to get too distracted. Hejin. We've changed some items and made some solo mode adjustments to the Star-Crossed Shaman. The small adjustment is compensatory. Is it compens? I don't even know, man. Attack power per level going up from 2.5 up to 2.7. Weapon changes. We made it through the character changes. Let's talk about weapon changes. Dagger changes. Damascus Steelthorn getting a little bit of a slap on the wrist. Max HP going from 250 down to 220. This weapon has been actually very, very popular on Kathy lately. I think it's too good. I mean, it was too good. That's why I got nerfed from 250 max HP down to 220. If you haven't been paying attention to the Kathy meta lately, the goal is essentially slam Damascus Steelthorn, slam Rocker's Jacket, slam as much attack power as you can, really, with a little bit of like defensive stats as well. Be tanky, be obnoxiously powerful because you have really good scaling and you just sort of slap people to death. It's been very obnoxious, so I'm okay to see this nerf. Assault Rifle, Overheat. Remember, Assault Rifle's got that big change to the D skill in the previous patch. It's getting a little bit of a buff by 1 ENAD on rank 1 and 2 ENAD on rank 2. Not a massive change, but it maybe will make AR feel a little bit better because the nerf was pretty significant. Rapier changes. 2 more attack power to Durandal Mark II. Voltacleto gaining 5% attack speed. Meteor Claymore nerf, thank God. Meteor Claymore nerf going from 15% crit damage down to 10%, and Joyous is losing 5% crit damage as well. So they're buffing the base rapiers, but they're nerfing the RNG rapiers, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. Because my personal opinion is that Meteor Claymore and Joyous were broken. I thought they were wildly overstated. It felt like whenever any of these rapier characters picked up, mainly Fiora, let's just be honest, mainly Fiora, when Fiora picked up the Meteor Claymore or the Joyous, they felt overpowered. But before then, they did not feel overpowered. And that's because these rapiers were a little bit less influential, whereas these were just completely overstated and broken. So this is a good change. I'm a big fan. Hammer changes. Hammer of Thor is losing 5 attack power. Was this thing doing anything? Does anyone actually know if Hammer of Thor was doing anything? Because I don't think it was. Oh, Valmar. Yo, that is a fantastic point. Okay, Valmar just cracked the code. Hammer change looks like a prep change for Sua. I bet you're 100% correct about that, Valmar. The thing about new character releases is that if you check the patch beforehand, you'll almost always notice some changes for items that will affect them later on. Like, we saw a ton of sniper changes. Suddenly Bernice comes out. He's a sniper character. We saw a bunch of changes. Oh, who's the most recent character? Alex? And I think we saw Fletchet buffs or something like that. Like, things like that. Like, they tend to they tend to adjust some of these things right before the character comes out, which is, it makes a lot of sense. So good catch, Valmar. I would not have even thought about that, honestly. That does make sense. Hammer of Thor is overloaded like EB is. I mean, it's got stats, but you have to remember that like Hammer base stats are so garbage. Like, the attack speed on base hammer is just so unbelievably bad. Didn't they like buffed it recently, didn't they? I didn't really investigate too much, but like, man, it was really bad. It was like really bad. But yeah, it's probably for yeah, hammer throw 50% attack speed. I know, but the scaling attack speed is just really bad. I don't know. It's pretty rough. Bat changes, Spy Umbrella getting a nerf. Man, I can't help but remember the fact that all of these Spy Umbrella changes are meant for Barbara. I know for a fact they're meant for Barbara. They are ignoring Magnus when it comes to these changes, because I don't think Magnus was problematic at all in the current patch, like even a little bit, and they've nerfed Spy Umbrella 2 patches in a row. Hammer skill's broken? It's really not. It's like really not. Magic Stick, 4 more attack power. Okay, a little bit more vision range too. Nice little buff for Magic Stick. It's gonna make it harder to get to Magic Sticks because Spy Umbrella sucks right now on Magnus, but I guess on Barbara it's fine. Doesn't matter. Dual Swords changes. Yes, Sua is very cute. She is next. Dual Sword changes. Normal attack amplification per mastery level being decreased from 2.5% down to 2.2. Good riddance. I thought dual swords were a little bit too good. So yeah, I'm okay with this change. Nunchuck. Attack speed per weapon mastery level being increased from 1.7% up to... Oh, we talked about this, right? We don't need to go over this again. We already talked about that. Shuriken changes. Azure Dagger getting nerfed from 24 extra skill amp down to 20. This item was pretty irrelevant in general. I think it was really only used on Zahir at the moment, and I don't think it was very good in general, so whatever. I wasn't building this thing anyways. It's fine. Doesn't break my heart. Two-handed sword changes. Normal attack amplification per weapon mastery going from 5% down to 4.6%. A little bit of a nerf to two-handed sword. Sniper rifle changes. Deadly Ray is losing its movement speed penalty. Big changes. Spear changes. Sharpened spear is one of the, I believe, blue spears? Might be one of the blue spears. The movement speed is going from 0.1 down to 0.06, and 18-foot spear is gaining a little bit of a movement speed buff. Didn't have one before, but now it's going up to 0.06. A little bit of a buff. Okay. Armor changes. Queen of Hearts seems to have fallen off after the introduction of newer cooldown reduction items. We'll be giving Queen of Hearts some extra functionality in a future patch. Keep an eye out. Couldn't agree more. Queen of Hearts sucks at the moment. Not good. Really, there's no reason to build it now that there is like Tachyon Brace and cooldown reduction on Cube Watch. Basically, Queen of Hearts just kind of sucked in general, so good changes. Yeah, it's a nerf to HP regen builds, but God bless, I hate regen builds. Regen builds have no place in this game. They've never been healthy for the game, and they should never exist. Sorry, just speaking my mind right now. Queen of Hearts also is gaining 3 defense to compensate for the fact that it is gaining or losing a little bit of HP regen. This is why we can't be true friends. It's because I lived through the true regen area, and that has soured regen builds forever, because I know it's always on this tipping point of being unbelievably broken. Like, it's very close at all times, and every time they buff it even a little bit, I just get terrified, man. I know it can get to that like truly problematic phase, and at that point it's not fun for anybody except the one person abusing it. Head changes. Crystal Tiara, the defense being increased by 3, maximum SP being decreased by 100. This is a good change. No one really cares about the fact that it had 600 SP and now it's down to 500 SP. That does not matter. Yo, what's up, dude? The defense change going from 21 up to 24, it's gonna make it just better in general. Crystal Tiara, this is a good buff. Also, Steel Shield, the attack power, is going to get nerfed a little bit, going down from 23 down to 20. And Gojin, Revenge of Gojin, is gaining 3 attack power but losing 5% amp as a result. Lemon ice cream is being changed to lemon custard because there is no ice in the recipe whatsoever, or cream, I think. Just lemons and eggs. Ugh. You don't want to drink some lemon eggs? Anyway. Fish and chips. Well, I guess you eat it because it wasn't a drink. Fish and chips. Maximum stacks going from 5 up to 6. I saw a buff in the little like quick rundown, and I was confused, but I guess that's the buff. Big buff. Mode adjustments. I'm not going to talk about this too much. I really don't like talking about mode adjustments too much, but There's been a few changes. Bernice is getting a little bit of a nerf in duos and squads. I think that's actually kind of justified because I think he's actually pretty decent in duos and squads. Dual swords characters have been showing slightly higher results than average in high elo and tournaments. Yes, they are extremely strong. Bernice wasn't allowing for a lot of counterplay with his ultimate spreading to group team members repeatedly, so we're toning down his team damage a bit to balance his utility. Dual swords changes overall. God bless these changes. Yuki dual swords getting nerfed in all modes. Damage dealt in solos going down from 103% down to 100%. His damage taken is back up to 100%. In duos, 100 down to 96. In squads, 100 down to 94. Big changes, and God bless. These changes needed to come in before the ERCL squads, which, by the way, is taking place this weekend. You should be there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Also, Jackie changes similar things, going from 97% down to 95%. I'm looking forward to not casting as much like games where I just go, oh look, the Yuki player pressed D and Dual Swords Rampage did so much damage to the entire enemy team, and it was bullshit. It did so much damage for no reason. So that's a good change. Also, Hedgen Shuriken damage dealt in solo was at 105%. It's going down to 100%. Whatever. It's a change. Who cares? And that's it. Yeah, guys, that's gonna be it. There it is. Minor patch 0.30.1. There's the quick rundown. There's the quick adjustments. If you guys enjoyed this, the VOD will be going up on YouTube. And yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you all for joining me for this patch notes discussion.